thank you again, everyone who has joined us. And if you have questions, feel free to chat them in. I'll do my best to get to them. We're not going to do a ton of slides, so I just want to make sure we get to kind of some of the key pieces here. And please feel free to save questions for the end as well if you want to have a little bit of an open conversation. So this is our agenda. I want to do quick intros. We're going to then look at a high level what existing and future alumni engagement solutions look like. And so we will get into the weeds, but I first want to take a snapshot of just what the big differences are here as we look at this. We'll talk about different outreach kind of methods, channels, levels of effectiveness. And a lot of what we're talking about today is actually around systems and technologies. So it turns out to use any technology, not all of them, but there is some process or some system that you have that supports your use of technology, and that's no exception for alumni engagement. So we're actually going to look at the systems and technologies that you can use to really drive tremendous levels of alumni engagement, donor activations at a really high volume as well. And with these tools, not only do you need to have some systems and processes, but the components that the impacts that they have on some of your practices, particularly messaging and how you engage alumni, actually can change a bit as well. So we're going to take a deep look into some messaging best practices, and all of this is going to turn into a bit of a playbook for you. So if you decide that you want to pursue a system and a technology like this for your own alumni engagement efforts, this will be an extremely helpful session. So just to do a quick intro, my name is Patrick Baines. I'm the CEO at PeopleLinx. I actually was a former phone-a-thon caller at Alfred University. So when I was in school, I did the nightly phone-a-thon with a bunch of my other students, peers at the university. And that's sort of where this story began. Following Alfred, I worked at LinkedIn from 2007 to 2009. I was employee 162, and I've been in the technology space ever since then. But the story here is that Alfred University actually wrote an article in the Alumni magazine about PeopleLinx. This is a snapshot of the article. We have 3 alums from the university at the company. And during that process, it just occurred to me as a former phone-a-thon caller that our system, our technology, which we've been using for a decade in the for-profit world, would work really well for alumni engagement. And I get the calls late at night from the student callers and all that stuff. So, you know, I know this is a year and a half, 2 years ago now, but I knew they were still doing a lot of the same practices. So I used this article as a way to get introduced to our head of advancement. The rest is history, as they say, where Alfred University actually was open to running a pilot with us. And since then, we've got great results, a great program, and we've begun rolling out with other institutions. So just to look today at what existing alumni engagement solutions look like. And I know this isn't the case for everyone. I'm sure some folks have got a little different practices and methods and technologies in place, but a lot of what's happening inside of alumni engagement is still very manual. It's still people one by one identifying an alumni contact, picking up the phone and calling, writing an email, having to follow up on the email, and it's very manual. It can also be very time consuming. So it's literally people that are constraints. Your biggest constraint is your people. You know, you can only do as much calling and as much outreach as your engagement team will allow. And as we know, that's a precious resource. So we have a very manual process, generally speaking. It's very time consuming, and it can also be very inefficient. You don't always know who's going to be the donor, who's not going to be the donor, there's a big pool of alumni to engage. And so how do you know who's going to be your best target? Who's going to have either the most giving potential or the most activation potential? So it's a lot of kind of guesswork. And on top of that, particularly with like the phone-a-thon, it can be very disruptive to that recipient schedule, right? They're taking calls on, unscheduled, on the fly. And so we're kind of interrupting them to try to get their attention. And so that can change the tone of the conversation a bit. And it's also, as we talked about, it's a little bit limited in our reach, but it's also limited in our follow through, right? We can only try so many alumni so many times. So the reason that I think we still do these practices is because they kind of work. And I know in the case of Alfred, the phone-a-thon is still one of their biggest sources of new donors and so forth each year. So they kind of work. We keep doing them. But there is another opportunity out here. And these are kind of the new solutions. This is what we've done with Alfred. This is what we're doing, starting to do. We brought on 2 other universities just in the last few weeks. And it's taking these same activities, the same activities that you and your team, either the official like university engagement team or your student callers, it's a lot of the same activities folks are doing, but we're going to put it into a system. And I'm going to go through that system in detail with all of you. And then we use technology. We have the PeopleLinx platform that will automate these processes, these activities in line with the system that we design. So here's what the future kind of looks like when you think about driving these same activities. So we want alumni engagement. We want our outreach to be automated. So we want automated outreach. We also want to maximize productivity. Productivity back in the day was what a person could get done. Today, productivity is what can that person get done with technology. And productivity levels have skyrocketed in so many categories. So now we have all this technology that can drive all this productivity. So we want to make sure we're getting the most out of our limited resources in our team, and that people can drive higher value activities with their time. At the same time, when you use technologies, you get a lot of data. And so now we're going to have a lot of data to work with so we can do very targeted outreach. So we know that, hey, this alum has not just giving potential, but that they're engaging at a high level. And there's someone that if we're going to pick up the phone tonight or today, this is someone I want to reach out to. And I'm going to go into detail on how that part works in a little bit as well. And these technologies and this type of outreach can also let us accommodate the recipient's schedule much more so, where we're not relying on late night phone-a-thon calls per se. We're not waiting, we're not relying on catching somebody at the right time and finding the right moment. With technology, we can actually start to automate not only our outreach, but when we're doing so at this larger scale, and you can use things like calendar scheduling tools, you'll find alumni will actually proactively book appointments with you. And so not only did you not have to chase them, they actually could book it at the right time to have the conversation with you, which changes the conversation dramatically. And so these are some of the benefits of future solutions, in addition to, of course, scalable reach and follow through. But it is hard to implement. I'm going to show you the playbook so you'll see how to implement it. But many people either stall doing this, like they kind of get something going once or twice, they have some success here or there, but they, over the long haul, kind of fail in the sense that it doesn't take off, it doesn't become the new process, the new way of doing things. And so when we look to implement a system like this, it can be as simple as this. The first part is having approved alumni lists. So forget where we're going with the technology and all of that. We'll get there, but we'll start with small segments of alumni contacts, right? So maybe it's inactive donors who have never donated in the last 5 or more years, but we think they have some giving potential. And then active donors who they've given, but we want to bump them up to that next level, to the President's Club and so forth. And we'll start with small groups of them and make sure that these lists have been approved. So again, rather than doing one by one kind of identifying of alumni, we now are doing it in bulk. We're doing it in groups of 500 or 1,000, right? All up front, we're going to say, hey, I'm Melissa, I'm the engagement officer. Rather than me picking off alumni one at a time to reach out to, I'm going to do it in bulk. I'm going to do 500 pre-approve of this list. And then instead of writing one message to reach out to this one alumni with, we're going to use a sequence of messaging. And I'm going to show you an example in a second that is not only my first outreach email, it's the second, it's the third, it's the fourth. And if that alum responds, the second email won't go out. If they don't respond to the second, the third email will go out. If they respond to the third, the fourth won't. So the technology can tell that. But we're going to create all of the messaging that this engagement officer would send themselves. Nothing different. We might actually enhance it a bit. And so we're going to create not only an efficiency in working off of a large list of alumni that's been approved, we're going to also create all of our first, second, third, fourth outreaches, emails that we want to send. And then we're going to automate that outreach. So we're going to connect into the email account of that engagement officer and sending natively from their Outlook account. The PeopleLinx platform can send directly through their Outlook account. We're actually going to now Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, manage their outreach and follow-up, or we're going to automate it for them. And the sent items will be in their sent folder, and the responses and the feedback will come back to them. And so this is the first part of the system. It's really simple, right? We just had to pick a segment of contacts, create a series of messages, use a platform to automate that outreach, and now we're going to have a ton of benefits. Now, the next part of the system is where things get much more advanced. So from here, and this I'll show you in a moment, we're going to have a really high response rate. We're going to see 20 to 30% of alumni responding to automated outreach, and 1 in 8 booking appointments with the engagement officers. But while that's all happening, we can also be scoring the engagement of the alumni who don't respond. So these are the ones who clicked on the donate link but didn't donate, or they went back to the email 2 or 3 times but didn't respond. We can track who those folks are. We have a mobile application where we can send alerts to somebody's phone, or they can look on a web application. And now we have our team not doing cold outreach, but doing targeted follow through, meaning any of these contacts, they're warmed up. They've been reading and engaging with the university within the last few days, and we can actually sort them by their level of engagement and do very targeted outreach. And then as we go, we want to have some optimization, some training, and talk about how this new system is being used, because that's where some of the best practices and things come to light. But this is a look at how the system can be implemented, and implemented with quality assurance. So you don't send the wrong email to the wrong alumni and so forth. What we're looking at now is a sample of messaging from Alfred University's campaign, and this one is going after inactive donors. So these are folks that they've never donated in the past, right? You'll see kind of a couple key takeaways here. The subject line, it's catching up, an invite, and then the first name and last name of the recipient. So this would be like John Scott, Alfred University. And then John, congrats on your success. We put the spotlight on them. Would love to hear about your journey these past years. We're assembling an elite network of alums called Saxon Circle. So they're inviting them to the President's Circle. Do you have time to catch up? Here's my calendar. Let me know if you want to book a call. Something really light and personal. And this is whatever message you would want to send. We can help you guys kind of polish it and design it, but we create that first message based on the audience and what's the best foot forward we can present. And usually it's putting the spotlight on them. Like, we want to hear about your journey. We want to hear how you're doing. Then if they don't respond, there's a personalized follow-up, goes out a few days later. And then if they don't respond and it's been a week, we'll follow up. Hey, look, I'm reaching out, John, because I'm impressed with your success. So would love to catch up and hear your story. Do you have time? Let me know. And then, hey, we also have these initiatives going on. And then if they don't respond, we just go for the gift. So a couple days later, say, hey, John, we're getting really close to our fundraising goal for the month. A gift of any size will be a huge help. It's 100% tax deductible. And you guys can read on and see the messaging here. So this is all kind of the same spirit, the same style of messaging. We've enhanced it a bit because a person wouldn't be able to send this plus 2, 3, 4 follow-ups to every alumni without going gray like me. But this would kill this. This is a lot of work. And so, but we're able to create this series of 3 to 4 touch messaging and go out over a series of weeks. And what is the most exciting here, and we're looking at now real data. These are not, I didn't make these screenshots up. What you're looking at now are actually the results. And I'm going to show you inactive donors, people who have never donated, and then active donors, people who they have donated and we're trying to bump them to a higher level. But just automating these core activities, again, the same activities that these folks would be doing, this was a set of outreach that went on a Monday, Tuesday, same messages that we just saw here. And this same set of outreach, this one was going out on a Wednesday and Thursday. We engaged just short of 500 total alumni. We had an 88 and an 81% open rate on the emails, a almost 10 and almost 20% response rate from inactive donors, people who never gave. And then these smiley faces or neutral or frowny faces are actually the type of response that came in. So 32 out of just under 500 alumni actually booked a meeting, said yes to the conversation. I can see all the conversations that came in, so can Alfred. And this ended up overloading the engagement officer's calendar because this was just one person on the engagement team we were supporting. So 32 alumni appointments came in off of this. So they were totally booked. They couldn't do anything else. They've actually decreased their outreach volume since then. But it was a tremendous response level. And then it actually got even better when we reached out to active donors. So they call their President's Club Saxon Circle. So we were looking for folks that we could bump up. Here, there was only about 220 contacts. We had about a 73, 74% open rate on one and 81% on the other. And then a 20 and 30%, 31% response rate. Just for context, most email marketing, the traditional type of email marketing, is lucky to get a 20% open rate. A 20 to 30% response rate is unheard of. And then if you want to just top that with more numbers, we had 29 positive responses out of like just over 200. So it's like 1 in 8, 1 in 7 almost booking an appointment, saying yes to an appointment. And so 29 appointments out of 200 contacts, this engagement officer was totally busy too, right? Couldn't handle any more activity. And so when we averaged out all the results and kind of look at what happened with Alfred University, we got their program live within 14 days. They were able to, without having to lift a finger, this is why the alumni engagement game has changed. They were able to get 1 in 8 alumni actually proactively booking a conversation with them. They didn't have to call them and disrupt their day and try to get their attention. 1 in 8 booked the meeting with the team at Alfred. The more interesting thing, and this is where the hairs on, as a former phonathon caller, like this actually got my hairs standing up and like gave me chills. When we talked to Alfred in the first month and we're talking to the engagement officers, they said that the conversation and the narrative of the conversation has changed completely, because these are alumni booking calls, eager to share their story and catch up with the university, not being kind of caught off guard by a cold phone call in the middle of the day or the middle of the night. They said that by the time they get done telling their story and they get to the point where they say, oh, and we're looking for gifts and all these other things, that they end up having a higher probability of giving. It's a much easier ask. So it's really cool that not only are they booking calls and the engagement officers don't have to do anything to get those calls, but the conversations are actually much more positive conversations. The next thing that happened is Alfred actually took their program internally. So we designed it, we set it up for them, and now their engagement officers use the platform in like a do-it-yourself fashion. So it's at their own pace. If they want to add 50 alumni, if they want to do 15, and they want to schedule in-person appointments or this, that, or anything else, they're actually driving their own success. We will still be there. We can train them, train a new hire, support them if they have questions. But this is the program. These are the types of results that they got that I demonstrated for you guys a moment ago. And so we did all of this stuff in 2023. Just this year, we started introducing ourselves to universities, which is why we're hosting this webinar. We brought on 2 in the last 2 weeks, 2 additional universities. And we're really excited about this as a category for us. We've been in 10 years, been in business for 10 years, but these are by far some of the best results we've ever generated for a client. So like any good business, we want to go where we're seeing high levels of success. This is unbelievable, like off the charts results for us to see with any client. So just a couple other notes about a system like this. You can actually be giving your team 20 or more of their hours back a week, so they don't have to do all those manual activities. On the flip side, they can be engaging 250 more alumni automatically each week without having to lift a finger. So you not only save people tons of time, you create this massive productivity increase. That, of course, just like if you were to drive that type of activity yourself, is going to increase alumni conversations and donor activity like we demonstrated in the Alfred case study. So there's a lot of benefits to these types of programs. I think a lot of them spoke for themselves, but you get a lot of data-driven capabilities. You get an easier ask. You can engage donors at scale. You do need a bunch of things for this to kind of come together. So you do need to have the plan, like who we're going to target, when are we going to go after it. You need to organize your alumni list. You got to have the right messaging. There is some level of enablement and training, right? This is a behavior change. It's a process change for us. The system has to be implemented. I shared that process chart of how to implement a system like this. That's key, right? You have to have quality assurance and you have to implement these things correctly. You will get booked appointments, you will get the scored leads, and then you're going to need a team to drive this. Even if it's internal, somebody's going to have to be the one to make sure that you not only have this plan in place and it's organized, but that the thing can be running on an ongoing basis. There is great analytics behind the scenes on all these platforms. And then that is kind of it in terms of the content for the slides. And if anybody wants to have a one-on-one conversation, of course, we're here. We're happy to get to know you guys. But I want to open it up for more questions. If people want to jump in, you're welcome to like raise your hand. I can allow you to talk. And anywhere you want me to go deeper on any of the content or answer questions, I'm happy to do so. So thank you again for joining. Get in touch if you'd like. If you have questions, follow up, and have a great new year. And happy alumni engaging.